What's up, guys? Alex Wallace here from Wallace Training Systems, and today I want to talk about the limitation of research studies in exercise science. So first, I want to preface anything I say further by telling you I spend a lot of money on research. So I'm subscribed to, first off, the free stuff, which I think maybe you should do too. I'm subscribed to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of blogs when it comes to people that actually do research in exercise science. Secondly, I pay for research that's done in the Journal of Exercise Science as well as its synopsis to come directly to my email, and I read them. So I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is when it comes to research in exercise science. I love research in exercise science, but there is a limitation to research in exercise science. The way I look at it is there's really two limitations. The first one being the actual depth versus width. So you'll have one study that may be very deep, meaning you might have 16 subjects where you can control the variables very, very tightly. And you might have another study that may be very wide, namely it has several hundred or even several thousand individuals participating in this study, but it can't go very deep. And I just think that's the state of exercise science as it currently sits. Now, I'm not faulting anybody who does these research papers because I think that's just where the funding is right now. It's really hard to have a ton of people with very tightly controlled variables, or to have, it just doesn't make sense to spend that much money as it currently sits, because exercise science departments typically don't get that much. And the second problem I see has to do with the actual long-term practicality of a lot of these studies. So rarely does somebody actually lift just for, whatever the duration of the study is. Let's say it's 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 16 weeks, 2 years. Most times, people that are very committed to training in something, whether they're training in a sport like wrestling, whether they're training for distance running like marathon running, oftentimes you commit to it for decades. And the same thing applies to lifting. So let's say you have, two different groups. One of them does exercise one way, one of them does an exercise another way. Let's say it's rep ranges, for instance, because that's a huge debate right now. And let's say that there's no statistical significance in hypertrophy over 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 years. But is there a statistical significance after 20 years, after 30 years? Maybe what made 0.5% of a difference in a short duration study, and by short duration, I just mean the actual amount of time in relation to how long people normally lift weights. But if you project that out, that 0.5% in 10 years becomes 2%, in 20 years becomes 4%, in 40 years it becomes 8%. You know what I mean? Because we have people in here that are still lifting and they're well into their 70s. So I don't want to act like studies don't matter. I'm just saying that just because something isn't statistically significant doesn't mean that it can't have significance in how you actually perform at the later part of your career. Because rarely do I see studies where somebody follows somebody from the age of 12 to the age of 82. Because there's people that are going to lift into their 80s. There's people that are going to lift for 70 years. They're going to try different things, and they're going to do something one way versus somebody doing something else the other way. So it's one of those things where the long-term practical application of exercise science research, I don't want to say it's completely useless. I just want to say take it with a grain of salt, because what's done over the course of, let's make a long-term study, over the course of 2 years might not mean as much as it would 20 years in the future. So again, guys, I love research in exercise science. I read a lot of it. I pay for a lot of it. But I do see the limitations of it, and I don't think it should be the end-all, be-all of how you decide to train yourself, or if you're a trainer, how to train your clients. So again, guys, if you like the video, don't forget to like the video. If you're interested in seeing more content, make sure you subscribe. I'm Alex Wallace from Wallace Training Systems, and thanks for watching.